Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this hopefully quick video here on G4G on YouTube. So apparently the Blizzard saga with Hearthstone isn't over, or maybe it is or maybe it isn't. There's been a lot of conflicting reports today, but it's a good thing I had Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux Alpha 5 video to get out because it allowed some of the information to cook. And if I had done this video earlier in the day, it would have been misreporting a few things because the narrative has changed slightly. So it looked like earlier in the day, when I was thinking about this video, Blizzard was reported to have been continuing to ban pro-Hong Kong messages in their chats. However, it was only the live Hearthstone games, not any of the reruns. The mods were apparently not in the rerun channels. So it looked like there was some saving grace to it. Well, it continues to get a little bit better for Blizzard in the sense that the reports from earlier today were slightly misconstrued. According to Polygon, the reports that people were getting banned from the Hearthstone chats were only getting banned if they were spamming. If somebody just said something like, "Free Hong Kong," and then shut up, apparently they weren't getting banned. I don't know if we have proof of that yet or not, but it's only the people who were spamming, and to be honest, this is the kind of message you would spam in these chats. But it's only the spammers that have gotten the ban. Now, according to this, some channels were in follower mode only, and you have to be following the chat for 2 days prior, so it's still getting spam with messages in support of Hong Kong. The Hearthstone Twitch channel, which is currently airing a rerun of the Hearthstone Masters Tour in Bucharest, Romania, is also operating in followers-only mode. This moderation tool requires viewers to follow the channel on Twitch for 2 days before chat permissions are enabled. Here is an official statement from Blizzard. We are not banning people from Twitch chat for specifically using pro-Hong Kong speech or any other political statements. Bans are being levied by an automated moderating system that's triggered by viewers spamming any phrase repeatedly. We expect to have the issue corrected in the next few hours. And the article talks about what happened with Blitzchung and revoking his prize but then giving it back, and this is the second thing that I want to talk about in the video, and that is AOC, among other people, including Rubio. Several US politicians have drafted a joint letter with 6 people going in on the letter from both the right and the left saying to Blizzard, "Hey Blizzard, knock off all that shit." The original statement is up on Twitter, and that's where I originally encountered this earlier in the day, and it's very interesting to see somebody like AOC go in on something that Rubio is going in on. Now, that's cool in so many respects because it's nice to see, for a change, both sides of the fence in the United States working on something together. In a time in which America is perhaps more divided than the civil rights era, maybe to a degree even on par than the Civil War in a lot of the fundamental differences the right and the left have, it's nice to see joint ventures like this coming together and going on the offensive for something that is offensive. I am deeply saddened that it's Blizzard, of all things, because this is a company that, up until a certain point in history, people loved. It's not EA that people have been shitting on for a while, or Bethesda that people are happily kind of crapping on with their recent turn on things despite producing quality products in the past. Blizzard is one of those ones that people liked. People believed Blizzard's attitudes and mottos. And while you may have had minor disagreements with things, especially if you looked at Blizzard forums for things like World of Warcraft and PvP, for the most part, people wanted to believe in Blizzard. kind of the same way a lot of people from my age and my experience in gaming wanted to believe in Epic, because they produced the Unreal Tournament series that I was a competitive player on, and I'm still surrounded by many of my former clanmates who are competitive players in UT. And then they did the Gears of War series, which people have generally liked, but now Epic has changed since Cliffy left. And people readily admit that. I think people are slower to want to admit that for Blizzard, because for some people their childhood is literally wrapped in Blizzard products, from the first Diablo to the first Warcraft RTS games to World of Warcraft when they were young, and now, they're young adults. And for me, I was a medium adult for World of Warcraft, and now I'm an older adult. And people know that they formed bonds and relationships and friendships, and sometimes failed relationships, sometimes marriages and children through games like World of Warcraft. So it would be painful to admit a company like Blizzard has succumbed to Activision's shit. And I happened to read an article earlier today, I think it was from Massively Overpowered, as to whether or not the people on that staff were going to be boycotting them. And most of the article said that they were, except for some people that joked that, I was hip, I quit Blizzard products in 2008. And they joked like, I'm a hipster quitter or hipster boycotter. And one of them said, I can't, because it's literally my job to do Blizzard stuff. But it wasn't good. I mean, of the people who were playing it actively who could quit, literally every single one of them said it. Now, for some particular reason, in the comment section of my previous video, one guy was giving me shit because he thought I backed out of BlizzCon. I'm not backing out of BlizzCon. I'm not physically going to it. I never have. But my digital tickets, they are not getting canceled by any stretch. And I'm not canceling WoW kind of because I can't. I'm a guild leader, I'm a raid leader, and I'm a main tank. It's not really in the cards for me. Plus, there is a certain sense of loyalty to everything in current World of Warcraft that I don't even play Classic WoW because of this odd sense of duty and loyalty to Biffa and keeping the clan together. And there's a certain level of... It's hard to find the word for it, but there's a certain level of legacy, I guess is the best word for it, when at the 10-year mark, Blizzard sends you the statue for not having missed a payment since the beginning of the game, and they reward you with something they'll never reward you with ever again, is that Garrosh statue. And that showed up in the mail, and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? And then everybody online was posting about it, then the articles came out like, hey, if you didn't miss a month, Blizzard gave you a statue. That's not a company that exists now, sadly. But it's extremely hard for me to quit at least World of Warcraft. Could I not do Diablo Immortal? But yeah. Like, that's an easy one. That's a gimme. Can I not do StarCraft or any of the... Well, that one's kind of gimme too. They're not doing it anymore. Can I stop Overwatch? No. I like Overwatch. Can I stop Heroes of the Storm? More so now than if you asked me a year ago. It's not part of my daily routine anymore, but it used to be for a long time. I would say HOTS is probably the more give-upable one of the ones I currently play. And Diablo 3, it's so scattershot that I'm in there. I could totally give up Diablo 3, but I cannot fully boycott Blizzard, unfortunately. And I do want to watch the Clown Fiesta that will be this year's BlizzCon. I've already taken a day off of work. I'm committed to it. I'm not backing out of it because I want to see it out of morbid curiosity. Like, I want to see two trains hitting each other in Japan on the high-speed magnet rail at like the 250 miles an hour that they go. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I just want to see what that looks like physics-wise. It's the same thing. But at least it's getting a little bit better that they're not ridiculously censoring their stuff. So when I thought about this particular issue earlier in the day, and I sort of was mentally planning the video on this. Oh, by the way, before I get into this, I want to point this out. So Riot Games, a company that in its own right has a lot of shit in its history. It was very, very sexist, very abusive to women. There was literally dick punching going on in the office. There was like lifted like farting on people. It was a very bro culture, and it's only about a year ago that Riot was heavily in the news for its culture. It seems Riot smells blood in the water with Blizzard, and they're going for them hard. So Riot has always definitely had the better MOBA. League of Legends might be a trash pit. It might be filled with way more Brazilians than any of us in the United States want to deal with. But it's clearly the bigger MOBA than Heroes of the Storm. There's no doubt about that. I like HOTS better, and I will never ever dip a toe into League of Legends. But you have to respect its position. But now, the tables are beginning to turn a little bit. Riot, who has always had the victor in the MOBA sphere, and Blizzard has had to concede, now Riot's doing two things at once. They've put out a card game called Legends of Runeterra that I've been watching Disguised Toast play on Twitch, and it seems pleasant. Like, the music and the nature background, it's like pleasant to watch, and the Poyo sitting in the corner, it's cutesy and it's just kind of pleasant. So now all of a sudden, whereas Hearthstone is definitely king card game, here comes Riot going, okay, we are winning one category, let's see if we can go for another category. And the other thing Riot is doing is they're coming up with a shooter called Project A or something like that, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it's competing with a Destiny type niche, which of course Blizzard Activision lost, so kudos to Bungie over there. But they might be going for the Overwatch niche in Project A. So Blizzard would do well to shore up their defenses and get their shit together and stop fucking around when Riot is potentially sniffing at their heels on two different fronts. Now, I want to remind people, don't forget what Riot was like. If you think Blizzard is up to some shenanigans, let's not forget Riot was way worse, because Riot was extremely offensive to an entire gender of people. So don't forget about that when you're like, oh, I want to like Riot better than Blizzard. I still would like Blizzard's culture way better than Riot. I know females who code, including my own girlfriend and several former co-workers, and I would feel terrible for them if they worked in the kind of environment that Riot used to be. And it was bad. And it was also, they glass-ceilinged female devs over in Riot too, which was pretty bad. So Blizzard really, really needs to pull the drawbridge back and put some sharks in the moat along with some gators, because they're seriously under fire. But that little blurb aside, when I was thinking about this video earlier in the day around lunch, I was sort of planning out in my head what I was going to talk about. And like I've said in videos on this on the past, like I've said on the Zoe videos or the Jessica Price video last year with Guild Wars 2 and everything, I approach these things from a very public relations perspective, because that's been my history and it's the way that I think. And it helps me be neutral. I really thought for the longest time Blizzard is so screwed in this, there is nothing that they can do. They cannot get out of this because they've dug their own grave. And there is no way out. If they backtrack all the penalties, which they've lightened them, but if they completely backtrack them, China could potentially get upset and go the way of South Park and be like, fuck Blizzard, you're out of the country, goodbye, no stuff, you're gone. And then Blizzard is down 5 to 8% of its profits, I believe. But if they continue to come down on Blitzchung, and now they've retroactively gone after American University and said, okay, you guys are going to get punished, which American universities like, we don't care if you punish us. We've already removed ourselves, so you're punishing empty space, but okay. I was like, Blizzard has no way out until I kept thinking and thinking. I'm like, wait a minute. Blizzard does have a way out of this. And they have a way where they actually can't win and can transform it into a way where they can't lose. And you might be thinking, like, how? What possible rabbit can they pull out of their collectively stinky asshole right now that will help them get out of this? And that is to use China against themselves. 'Cause think about it. If China bans South Park products and South Park from the net and South Park from whatever stations they have and everything, like, oh well, you can get a VPN or something like that. You can still get access to it the net that way. But for the largest part, China's not necessarily going to care. But if Blizzard does it, do you honestly think for 1 second that Chinese people are going to simply just let their government take away Blizzard products like that and just roll over and be, okay, I guess no more WoW? There are people who make a living, literal living, within the World of Warcraft monetary sphere. World of Warcraft, the movie, was so big in China that it is potentially going to enable us to get a second movie. And for that, I'm happy. I'm sad it didn't do well in the States. The movie did have some issues, especially when compared to the Giant Grandfathers that was Loader beforehand. They set an amazing standard. But there's something that I want to remind you guys of here. This little ditty from way back in 2007 with Summergale and Nim. Nihao, the gold farmer story. This isn't about Japanese gold farmers. This isn't about Brazilian gold farmers or Indian ones or Philippine ones. These are literally about Chinese gold farmers that ran the market in World of Warcraft, because there are people who make their living doing this. World of Warcraft in China is huge. So if Blizzard actually walks back the punishments on Blitzchung, let's say they take it to a 2-week suspension, they let him have his winnings, which they've done, but they fine him. Just like, say, UFC. So if UFC, you don't make weight, you get a fine, and you have issues getting your full purse that you would get if you had made weight. If you excessively, like, swore on the after-match interviews when they do their cable TV things instead of pay-per-view, you get a fine. And baseball, if you do a bench clearing brawl, you're going to get a fine. Treat it just like a sport. Suspend them for a limited period of time. And then go ahead and fine him. But then walk back the major punishment. And then that's literally Blizzard saying, okay, China, the ball's in your court now. This is what we've done. He's punished. And Blizzard should then release a very harsh statement against any future people who do something similar to what Blitzchung did, and said, like, just so all the players know, we will do this to you. You will be subject to a fine, suspension, depending upon the severity, whatever. But it turns it around, and it puts it in China's court. And it's like, okay, China, what's your move now? And if China sits there and says, okay, fuck Blizzard, we're not going to have Blizzard products here anymore, can you imagine the impact that it's going to have among the Chinese people? They're not going to sit down and take it lightly, and they're probably going to cause major issues for a government that says something like this. This isn't South Park. This isn't an NBA player who sticks up for China against a coach or something like that, and China says, okay, you can't have some crazy away game at a Chinese stadium for publicity and everything. If millions and millions of people are playing Blizzard products over there, they can't do it. Like, the Chinese government would be stupid to take this away from its people. And yeah, maybe somebody like Tencent would back out of their stake in Blizzard, or they would be like, okay, that shitty Chinese mobile game that we have, that we put a wrapper skin on it and called it Diablo Immortal, and you know, we're gonna walk that back. You can't have that anymore. Yeah, maybe something like that'll happen. But if they go so large to take it away from the Chinese people, I don't think they're going to stand for it, and it's going to pinch the Chinese government pretty badly. And it kind of hit me when I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, this is really actually more Blizzard coming out of this as a win rather than China. Now, I want to show you something about an actual, like, legitimate sports fine and everything. So many years ago, back in 1993, the Capitals and the Islanders were playing hockey. The Islanders scored a winning goal. And I want you to watch what Dale Hunter of the Capitals does. So there's Pierre Turgeon, hands up. Boom. Cheap shot from Dale Hunter in the back. Took Turgeon out of the rest of the playoffs for the Islanders. This hit in the back over here. This is potato quality because this is very, very old now at this point. But watch this hit over here. Boom. On the ice, hurt severely. Islanders come over knowing the damage that just got done and wreck the Capitals' face. This is one of the most notorious shots in all of sports history, let alone just hockey history. And Dale Hunter was the absolute cheapest piece of shit fuck motherfucker in hockey's history for this hit. And he only had a 5-game suspension, which he served the next year because the Caps were out of the playoff after this. That hit, a physical hit, not a comment, not a mask on a stream. This level of a hit was only 5 games and maybe a monetary fine. If we could have that level of repercussion for an actual event where somebody's physically hurt and can no longer play the playoffs for the rest of the Islanders season, and he was one of the Islanders' best players, if not the best player at that time, why are we coming so hard on a guy who puts on a mask and makes a comment? Yes, it's against an entire country rather than a team, but it's kind of ridiculous when you compare it. And I think Blizzard does have a way out, and that is to, I mean, the American University, I don't think they can touch American U anymore. They didn't go after them, then they sort of caved to the obvious pressure of, like, don't be racist, you do need to go after them, and then they did. I don't think they can un-go after them again, but they can definitely walk back Blitzchung stuff to almost nothingness and get away with it. They have to. They absolutely have to, because they can save BlizzCon mightily. I mean, not 100%, but they can do at least a 65 to 75% save on BlizzCon if they take my suggestion and put it back in China's court. Because I really, really think China's government cannot effectively ban Blizzard on the whole the way they could something like South Park. I think the repercussions will be way more major. I think that it's like saying, okay, Nike, you're not allowed to have your Chinese sweatshop sneaker factories around here anymore. There's people like that's their life. I mean, it's a shitty life, and there was that Family Guy episode where somebody literally steps off the line, has a baby, and then they put the baby to work. That happens with gold in World of Warcraft. I kid you not. It is a real thing. That's why there is a meme, Ni Hao, the gold farmer story, and You have this video, the Chinese Mafia that farm WoW gold. Way back in the day on Bloodhoof, there was a guild called Purple Death Infection, a literal functioning, operating guild that was made up of Chinese gold farmers. And if you put in trade chat, like, hey, we're looking for people, and look at this video, professional Chinese gold farmer tells all exclusive interview with Jared Sagoda. If he's a WoW person, well, there's a verified WoW gold farmer who makes a living. World of Warcraft, BBC, gold farming. Oh my god, look at all these videos that talk about gold farming. That's WoW. That's an Earth Elemental layer, and that's Lunar Sphere or Necrosis. I know that that's WoW just from looking at it. Gold farming documentary, Gold Farmers Part 3. I mean, Associate Professor Evil kills all gold farmers. Well, that's a WoW Machinima, but it's a definite business there. China can't make that kind of action. They really can't. But that's my suggestion to them. That's what I think they can do to save it. I think they need to. And I think they need to do something fast because Bobby Kotick was in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, that weasel-faced shit-fuck who probably couldn't get his little tiny badger spud touched unless he pays for it. You know, he's like, somebody would just look at him and be like, your eyes are too close together. You are unattractive. I'm not going anywhere near you. You know he would have to take a Jeffrey Epstein service to get somewhere. I mean, Epstein kind of was the Uber of incels getting laid. But when you have companies like, I'm telling you, Riot smells blood in the water, and they're going for it. And unless Blizzard keeps their fans and their players and the people who are dedicated to the Blizzard sphere of products, somebody like me who plays Overwatch and plays Heroes of the Storm and plays World of Warcraft and pays for World of Warcraft and sometimes pays for a seasonal or an event loot box clump in Overwatch. And I mean, sometimes my girlfriend will be like, oh, I really like the skin, I hope I get it, and I'll gift her a 5-pack or a 10-pack so she gets it. Sometimes I get it for myself too, sometimes I don't. You know, I've gone for mounts for her. I pay money into Blizzard's financial sphere that they influence. I used to pay for Heroes of the Storm. I've largely let off on that one, although there was a recent one where I did a minor amount. Never did Diablo. Never did that. So Blizzard needs to keep fans like me, and they need to do something, and it needs to not be in favor of China. Pinch China's government. Really put the ball in their court and watch what they do and see if they back it down, because it's one thing to get rid of a show. It's one thing to get rid of something that people make a living off of. So let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you have more business acumen than I do and can say, no, the Chinese government really could get rid of everything Blizzard and not care what their people think. They're like, okay, so you can't farm gold anymore. Go to the Nike factory. That's entirely a possible thing, but I want to hear your arguments down below, so absolutely let me know what you think about it. Do you think Blizzard can walk it back at this point? Do you think they can save BlizzCon? Are you interested in BlizzCon from a distance, like watching it remotely? I believe a bunch of people are running articles that protest groups have gotten their money and their Kickstarters and Patreons and everything like that, and they're going to protest. So I don't think Blizzard can handle another crappy BlizzCon. Last year, the Diablo announcement shit on more than just the Diablo people. It literally shit on people at BlizzCon. I had a guildmate who was there, and I was like, so what was it like? Were you in that theater? And she said, oh yeah, no, we definitely were. We're Diablo fans. I said, okay, what was that like? Because we saw it remotely, but what was it like in the theater? And I'm like, originally it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop because we were so stunned. But then it was like a vacuum happened. It was like everybody sucked the fun out of the entire convention, and then it was like, what, you people don't have phones? As somebody said on Twitter, what, you people don't have a PR staff? They need to hire me. I'll do it for them. As long as I can work remotely. I don't want to go to California, because fuck California. Who wants to go to California? Not me. So, let me know what you guys think. Have a good one, everybody.